I'm queen, whatever wanna be. We should open up a business and call it Water World, and it's just different kinds of water.
People have tried, the stoner's dream. Oh, if there's only a place that had milk and cereal. And then there's been places that try that and they don't work. Because you're not making anything special and going
Do they make their own, like, Fruity Pebbles, least in the back?
No. I think if you're going to make it work, you need to make something that you can't get at the store for a cheaper price.
You can't call them Fruity Pebbles. You have to call them, like, Fruit Stones.
Little rocks of, what's a synonym for fruit?
Fruit? Nature's candy.
Little rocks of nature's candy.
Every time I eat grapes that are really sweet, and I'm like, how are these so sweet? I think nature's candy.
It's delivered like that every time. Nature's candy.
Yes. Nature's candy. Oh, I wrote down sweaters, jackets, hoodies, sweatshirts, coats, pullovers. I think that a lot of people have differing opinions on what makes a hoodie versus what makes a jacket, what makes a sweatshirt.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
A hoodie's
Travis and I fight about it all the time.
A hoodie's very clear cut.
Yep. What is it?
It's got a hood.
Okay, but does it zip?
Yes, it can zip.
That is no longer a hoodie.
And it can be a pullover. It can be either.
A hoodie does not have a zipper.
Yes,
a hoodie
it does.
Nope. That's a jacket.
It's not a jacket.
Yes. See what I mean?
It's the material that's also made out of. The material matters.
Oh, so you're basing it all on material? Okay, we can't talk about this now because this is a topic.
I'm saying if it's some kind of zip-up, rain-proof coat with a hoodie, then it is a jacket. But the hoodie material is very specific. It's like that sweatshirt material.
What's the difference between a sweatshirt and a sweater?
Knit.
Just like I said, knit.
That's what it is. It's the knit. Sorry, I'm eating some M&Ms, which I know is annoying.
I'm jealous.
Because if we want to keep this in the beginning of the show, people are going to hate me.
I wish there were raisins with it.
Ew. Nature's candy.
Nature's candy.
Nature's throwaway candy that nobody likes except for Autumn and a lot of other
raisins.
people. I hate them.
I'll eat a box of raisins.
Blech.
Oatmeal cookies with raisins? Bring it on. I'm not disappointed.
Blech.
That's eventually going to be real. That's going to be your real old man noise. You're still in New York. Some kid is doing something you hate on the subway, and you won't even say anything to them. You'll just make that noise. Ugh.
I'll never leave the city.
My mom was trying to diagnose you yesterday.
As what?
She said, she gets sad when she listens to some things that you feel.
Yeah, it seems to be a common reaction. I don't need people to get sad. I just present them as they are.
Right. And that makes her sad. And she said that you're self-centered. And I was like, I don't think it's self-centered.
I mean, there's truth to that. As I've said before, when you're neurotic, it becomes about you.
But it's different than other people who are self-centered. There are other people who are self-centered that feel like entitled. And I think she was thinking of it because you think that people are watching what you're doing and caring that you're doing something or judging you like you might judge them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of self-centered, I guess.
No,
but when I think of someone who's self-centered, I think of somebody different that's like, thinks they're too important.
I mean, I think the only thing about her saying that bothers me is the fact it's that noticeable. Because I've worked hard to not be as so involved with myself and not make everything about myself. I'm failing.
In different interactions, you probably are hiding it better. But
it's not hiding it. Like, I'm just trying to be more aware of it. I think on the show, obviously, it's going to come out. On the podcast, it's going to come out a bit more because we're talking about, ourselves and experiences and thoughts.
Yeah. I wouldn't call you self-centered. I disagreed with her.
I mean, again, she's not completely wrong.
Right.
If you want to draw a distinction between what self-centered means and just being self-involved, sure. But no, that's what happens. When you're neurotic, you think things happen. And you're like, oh, well, how does this affect me? How's this applying to me? It just becomes about you because you overthink things. So you're just trapped in your own head.
Yeah. Trapped.
Blech.
Welcome to One Topic, where we stick to one topic. My name is Autumn Fisher.
My name is Greg Russ, and this is my week to introduce a topic for discussion on the show.
Wonderful.
And this will come as a complete surprise to Autumn because nothing makes for a great podcast than springing an idea on another person and not allowing them to prepare.
No, I don't know what we are going to talk about today. So, Greg, please inform me.
This week's topic is embarrassment.
Ooh.
And the reason for this topic, because we give him what a shocked reaction.
What?
I don't know what I've got for this one, Greg, but I'll pull something together.
Gosh, I guess I'll try and come up with something. You're going to have to take the lead with this one.
So the reason we settled on this topic, meaning I settled on this topic and just told Autumn about it, was because I was talking to Kristen, who manages the Highland Inn in Atlanta, which is where Autumn and I stay when we go to Atlanta, and her son, Johnny, who's 12 years old, I guess has listened to some of the podcast. I know he
That's
said
really cool.
I know he said at some point, he's like, why does Greg sound so sad? He doesn't seem like a sad person in real life. So
No.
I was like, it's not. Nothing is sad here. This is just being presented as is. There shouldn't be sadness attached to it.
Well, I mean, we're not talking about your day-to-day. We're talking about things, and sometimes those things involve us talking about things that might make other people sad.
In a vacuum, sure, they could be sad, but they incorporate themselves into, daily life, and for the most part, things are fine.
Right.
I'll sign it to fine. But he threw some topics our way, and one of those was embarrassment, which I thought was a great topic.
It's a great topic. I love it.
So I said, let's do it. And here we are.
Doing it.
Getting into embarrassment, which is I would like to also lump in shame, because the two are close, but they're somewhat different. But just for the sake of this, both are at play. It's being called embarrassment, but can it also be shame?
Yeah, I feel like, what is the difference, do you think?
Do I think? What was that show we were supposed to do where we look up definitions?
Did we have a name for it?
I don't know if we had a specific name for it.
It was just 1,000 podcasts, micro podcasts, reading every entry of the dictionary. It comes out once a week.
So embarrassment, the definition is a feeling of self-consciousness, shame, it's in there, or awkwardness. And then shame is, as I look this up, a painful feeling of humiliation or distress caused by the consciousness of wrong or foolish behavior.
So it's a bigger word, right? It's a bigger feeling. It's a deeper feeling.
Yeah, I mean, the way I've always viewed it, which doesn't mean it's right, but embarrassment is possibly more fleeting. It's happening in the moment, and then if it sticks around for a long time, it's become shame.
Right. If it's deeper, if it's more of an issue for longer, then I guess it's shame. Okay.
Yeah, and when it just sticks around forever, years and years later, which is a lot of the embarrassment I'll be talking about today, is just these moments of intense shame. But I was thinking about embarrassment going into this, and it does seem like our society is quite ready to laugh at the misfortune and embarrassment of others, which I cannot stand. But
only if the person is not seen as an underdog.
Sure, if they're not seen as an underdog. But a big thing, reality TV, for example, and it's done through editing, but they love leaning into embarrassment. These people on the show, making them look like the biggest assholes possible, and not maybe asshole isn't the right word, because that makes you think that someone's out there trying to manipulate and be shitty to other people. When I say asshole, I mean foolish. A lot of the times this does happen, and because of that, you had things before, like America's Funniest Home Videos, where people fall and trip and hit their heads, and blood's pouring all over the place in the studio audience, laughing at someone else's misfortune. And, in those moments, yes, goofy things happen all the time. There's been times I've been walking down the sidewalk here in New York, and sometimes the sidewalks are uneven, and sometimes you're not paying attention, and you trip. I've never tripped and fallen.
Right.
But you'll trip and stumble, and then those are moments of embarrassment.
Do you know what I do when I trip on something and I just keep going? I never look back, because I started noticing people who do trip, they always looked behind them like, what was that? And I always trip and I keep going. I never look back, because I don't want to be the person like, whatever, I don't even care. For some reason, that's a thing.
I would do that too. I'd just keep going. I already know what it was. I don't need to look back. That's a whole act I think you're putting on for other people. Then you get angry, the fact that the sidewalk's not even, and then you start cursing the Department of Transportation or whoever's in charge of making sure the sidewalks, which I actually think the sidewalks are private property, in front of a building, whoever owns, whatever. Point is, You're looking to place blame.
I don't go that far. I don't go that far.
No, there was a person who slipped in the snow once, a lady who I'd say is in her 50s, and I tried to help her up. She fell. She was very angry. Get away! It's like, okay. Because I'm sure at that moment there's embarrassment.
Right.
She's not feeling so great, and she's like, I got this. I'll get up on my own.
Well, it's interesting her reaction.
Get away.
Because wouldn't you be like, oh, thanks?
Well, it depends. If you're feeling embarrassed and you're feeling hurt.
I would feel vulnerable, and I would welcome someone being sweet to me during my vulnerability. But I guess she has been taught that whenever she's vulnerable, she's in danger, girl. So she's like, get away from me.
Well, a lot of people can't handle their vulnerability. They feel vulnerable, and yes, they'll make sure to push people away. Mm-hmm. Because at this moment, if you're a jerk, you could actually make this worse.
Right.
Which I would hope
you should have changed your mind and started laughing at her and kicked her.
Yeah, and then dug through her pockets and stolen whatever she had in there, some petty cash, and her ID, and just ran away with it. It's like, you thought I was going to help you.
Medication.
You thought I was going to help you. Nope, I took advantage of you.
Or I was going to help you.
Yeah, I changed my mind on the fly.
Yeah, with that kind of reaction, took your money.
I'm such a volatile person that I was going to help you. Then you yelled at me, and I said, all right, you're going to pay for that.
Yep.
And I just took your purse. It was something that actually happened. I saw some video footage of Times Square in the 80s, and there were two guys fighting, arguing with one another. Mm-hmm. Then the other guy punched the one guy. He was knocked out. He fell to the ground. These people came up. You thought those people were going to help the guy. They just dug through his pockets. They rifled through and stole his wallet.
Animals. That is animal kingdom.
Yes, that is. It's exactly what it is. And, as much as I don't like being an animal watching that was a different Times Square than it is now. Yeah. With Elmo holding your kid hostage until you give him a few bucks.
Yeah. Gross Elmo.
That's what those people do.
And minions and stuff.
The minions are very popular.
Ugh, I do not understand.
I don't understand the minions.
They all have a funny, their little language.
I know. Yes. You should voice one of them. So the point with setting this up, embarrassment has become a form of entertainment. Maybe it always has been.
Well, look, Fail Army. Do you know that channel?
No.
Or that thing on line?
I can guess what it is. The Fail Army. There it is. Yeah, fail. Fail's a big thing. Mm-hmm. Look at you, idiot. You really failed.
He tried to do that, skateboard trick, and he failed. I racked his nuts.
It will shame you into never skateboarding again, which maybe isn't a bad thing. I think all skateboarders should be cut off by the time they're 25. Anyone who's ever 25 in skateboarding.
What if they're like pro?
If you're a pro, it's different. I was about to say that.
Okay.
But the people who use it as a mode of transportation, too. Longboarding down the streets of Manhattan.
What is that for?
No, it's to show off.
Yeah, is it the same thing as like, oh, this snake? My snake around my neck in public transportation?
Exactly. It's not a practical
His name is
means.
Steve.
It's not a practical means of transportation.
Do you want to pet him? He won't bite.
What parrot? Oh, this parrot?
This parrot's name is Steve.
The one that's dumped all over my...
He might bite you because birds will always bite you no matter how long you've known them.
I didn't realize that there was a parrot on my shoulder, even though my shoulder is covered in bird poop.
Oh, you mean this ferret?
And it stinks. Ferrets are outlawed in New York.
Are they?
Yeah, you can't have ferrets in New York. I don't know what led to that law, but they're not allowed in the city. But some people buck the law and they take their ferrets out on leashes. Oof. Again, what's the point of that?
Yeah.
You're just showing off. So maybe some people, if the ferret turned around and bit the person, and that's embarrassing for that person, I'd laugh. I'd laugh. Yeah. There was a guy who had turtles, which are also outlawed in New York, on leashes, and he took them to a public fountain, and they swam around.
Wow. I feel like that's a pretty good turtle owner, honestly.
Yeah. He was an older man. I don't know if he was still in the business.
Because, I always feel bad for animals that live super long lives, but they're in these little tanks. Even for fish, I feel bad for them just like living in this small world. I guess, I don't know how much they know. But I feel like if you live, I don't know, turtles aren't smart. Are they smart?
I don't know the level of the turtle intelligence.
I feel like a Galapagos turtle has to be smart. They live until like
the big
120
tortoise?
years old. Yeah.
And I don't know. They just exist. I don't know how much they're thinking about their environment.
Yeah. I feel like the longer you live, the smarter you must be.
As long as there are no predators and you're relatively safe and you're fed, maybe it's not such a bad existence. Yes, being caged up, thinking about it as a person. What an awful thing. But going back to my original thought, if someone on TV is being embarrassed, even if it's manipulated by reality TV where you know some of the editing went, I change the channel.
Really?
I cannot watch it. Or even those shows that are makeover shows or the home improvement makeover. What was the big one that was Move That Bus from a long time ago? Extreme Makeover Home Edition.
Yeah.
Sometimes, most of the time, these families were grateful. But sometimes you could tell someone wasn't so thrilled. I guess that's not a good example because most of the time those people had nothing and they're getting something.
What you mean is those like the couples that would switch houses and they would decorate each other's houses and then they would switch back.
That was a big one. You can tell.
Like, oh.
I have to turn it off. I could not watch it at that point. It's like, oh my, they hate it. And sometimes they express it. And then if they did express it, then I thought how the other person was feeling and I felt for them because maybe they were excited about doing a good job.
Does it make you feel uncomfortable to watch it?
Yeah, I think about the other person and what it feels like. So if it's the person who's gotten something for free through TV that was supposed to help them, they probably have conflicted feelings. They don't like it, but they don't want to make the people who gave it to them feel bad. But I can understand what they're feeling. And so I don't like watching that. And then in the case where if the person does express it to the other person, like Trading Spaces, I think of the people who created that room and they were probably very excited about it. Look what we did. And the other person, no, and I think about how they feel. Or if someone's singing the national anthem before a sporting event and it starts to go bad. I don't even watch the national anthems now. If TV's showing it, I'll just turn it off because in case it goes bad.
Yeah.
It's very hard for me to take because that's someone's, dreams.
Their moment.
It's being shattered too. Like they're being shattered as a human on TV and in front of this stadium. I don't want to watch that. I don't need to bear witness to such a thing, someone's demise in such a manner, which is why I will just turn it off before, just in case. I do not even want to run the risk.
So those are all real situations, real life things. What about in TV shows or something? Like The Office has a lot of uncomfortable humor.
Yeah, that's humor.
That's okay.
And there is humor in embarrassment and in discomfort, which is why it's played on. But yeah, when it's scripted, I'm able to say, all right, no one's really feeling bad over this.
Because Travis has trouble, like what you're saying, with the reality sort of the real situations, but he can't watch the scripted ones either. He like hides under pillows and stuff. Like he gets really uncomfortable.
No, because it's usually, there are times with other, I guess, emotions and feelings that are presented in fiction and film and TV that are uncomfortable to watch. Mm-hmm. Because you're still, even though it's actors, there's still, it does, makes you feel. Mm-hmm. You can put yourself in situations like, man, that can't feel good. But for some reason, like The Office is what I'm thinking of. Just the way
100%.
Just the way that's set up. I don't know. The whole thing is fun. It's supposed to be fun. So yes, even if there are moments, it's like these characters are probably somewhat deserving of it and putting themselves in that situation.
See, I don't mind watching that stuff at all. I have no problem with it, except for something like American Idol when they would show the really bad singers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of funny, but then it just felt so mean.
It is. It is mean. It's a big thing. It's like it's just mean because out of all those auditions, they always put in some bad ones. I do feel like some are staged.
Oh, yeah.
And that's okay if it's staged. But if it's someone who's really coming in and they're bad, maybe they should know that they're bad and they have no shot. But just because they weren't self-aware enough to not put themselves in that situation, doesn't mean they should be exploited and the whole country should laugh at them.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good
and talked about the next day and clips played and
yeah, that's a good example. I can't, there's no way I couldn't watch it.
Can you watch the Scott's Tots episode of The Office? Because that's the hardest one to watch.
I don't know if I've ever seen that one.
That's the one where Michael promised a bunch of kindergartners that he would pay for their colleges once they graduate, if they all graduated high school. So then that year finally came and he had to tell them he doesn't have that money. But they brought him to the school and were doing this big performance for him and they were all thanking him and it's impossible to, I can't.
I'll have to watch that one. I haven't never seen, with The Office, I've only watched some here and there. I've never sat down and watched the whole thing. But let's say that's a real situation. The person should have never promised it in the first place.
Right, so you're okay?
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Okay.
Tripping, slipping, falling, these are things that happen by accident. Yeah, if you put yourself in a situation, then, I could still feel bad for you, I guess. But
I don't feel bad for watching the fail army thing, because and the same with America's Funniest Home Videos. I'll turn on. I used to turn on America's Funniest Home Videos and think this is going to be lame, and I always had the best time watching it.
yeah, I can't deny that I didn't have a fun time watching it too as a kid. And they're not as bad. It's strange that they tried to bring it back. Did you see it? It's like Bob Saget came back and it's after dark, so it's a little raunchier.
I didn't see that.
I don't know if it lasted. They may have showed one
So
episode.
it was with who was Bob Saget, Tom Bergeron, right, with his tiny lapels. He always had the tiny lapel jackets. I never understood that. And then who was after that? Who was after him? Was it the guy from Home Improvement? The like coworker?
Al?
Al?
Did he host that? I don't know.
I think so.
I remember they had America's Funniest People, which was hosted by Dave Coulier.
Yes, and beautiful Daisy Fuentes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And remember he had, oh my God, remember he would do the voice of that like reindeer rabbit thing?
It was the jackalope. It was so dumb.
I can't do that voice that we're like.
Even as a kid who should have liked that, I didn't.
I didn't like it either.
I didn't like that.
What is this?
Yeah. It's like you're insulting me. And somehow you're on TV.
I can't. What, do you know what I'm talking about? That weird nasally back of your throat talking?
I know what you're, yes.
I can't do it.
I can't do anything. Else I'd try. But yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Wow.
But so yeah, that's
he should be embarrassed. I hope he's listening to this and realizing how embarrassed he should be.
I do wonder about these people who host things. Sometimes, look, it's a job and you're trying to make it. It's a competitive field. And even if you have some success, you know, when that's over, you're trying to find more success.
Yeah.
And you'll take things. And I wonder if people do look back. They have to and cringe. Like, oh, why did I do that?
Yeah.
I could never watch an episode. If I hosted America's Funniest People as Dave Coulier hosted it, I could never watch an episode. Looking back.
Well, and how like family friendly, perfect it had to be. Like it couldn't. You were supposed to. Oh man, remember in America's Funniest Home Videos, they would put the camera on the audience, like freaking out, laughing about these horrible jokes.
And a big thing with this was Bob Saget writing those lines that drove the videos. He would do the voices for the people in the video. Right. Remember that? And so this new version that was for adults, because how are you going to compete in this world of internet where these videos exist all over the place? No one cares about you curating them and putting them on TV anymore. But they tried to make it a bit raunchy. So he would still do those same voices. But it was very bad. But it would get risque at times. And borderline sexual. And this was what was supposed to set it apart. But that made me feel very awful for Bob Saget, too.
Yeah. Is he touring stand-up, maybe, I think?
He's been touring, right? He tours. And that was the big thing with him. He's a raunchy guy. And it stands in contrast to his role on Full House. And
on America's Funniest, ANTM, or whatever it's called.
Yeah, but this thing wasn't a good vehicle for whatever talents he may have. This new revised version, which I haven't heard anything about since I saw the first episode.
I've never heard of it ever, so.
It aired after the Bachelor finale.
Oh, it did?
Which was, back in March. So, anyway. Moving on from all of that, I guess we can talk about moments that actually, of embarrassment and how it applied to our lives, because there are surely plenty. And everyone, this is something that everyone has been through. I just don't like the way that you feel very alone when you're embarrassed. A lot of people are not helpful. It doesn't seem like. Okay, we go back to the woman slipping, but I guess embarrassment by nature makes you want to hide and not tell other people because you don't want those people to be judging you for it, for the thing that happened. But it would be nice if this happened. If you could just come out and say, this happened. And I'm very embarrassed by it. But if I share it with you, and you can understand how maybe that would feel, that would go a long way of dispelling the embarrassment, and hopefully so it didn't stick around and become shame. Got to the point where you think about it when you're showering, and I've brought this up before, but it is my trick. For some reason, these moments hit me when I'm showering, and it's such intense shame that I just have to turn off the cold water, and I scald myself for a second, because then it makes you forget. But, if there's...
That's cutting. Do you know that that's cutting? You're like basically cutting yourself.
Well, it's different. Cutting is so you can feel, I'm feeling way too much.
No, cutting is so that you can, you're feeling such intensity inside you. Cut your skin so that you can feel something else.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Then the joke doesn't work when people say, I'm cutting so I could feel. That's implying the person's emotionally dead and they're cutting to just feel something.
Oh, I don't think that's why cutters cut themselves.
No, what you say makes much more sense. All right, so yeah, it's the same, except it only happens in these rare instances.
So I thought you meant when they're not helpful, that when you are in an embarrassing situation, that the person who is sort of with you on that embarrassment, either they're the cause or they're just like near you, and like it's happening next to them, they're not helpful. But you mean
in general,
when you share it, they're like, what do they? You want them to react differently than they do?
Yeah, I feel like humanity as a whole, going back to what I originally said, things are set up that we're really looking to laugh at people who are in embarrassing situations. And sure, 101, if you present it to someone, hopefully they'll be empathetic and sympathetic. But I feel like there's not enough trust that you're going to get that, so people just keep this stuff inside.
Oh, I like to share it because I feel like I'm going to go crazy and it's just going to live in my head and I'm going to keep being embarrassed over and over and over. Yeah,
you have a specific example?
Yes, I do. There's a neighbor here and it was when we had first, like early on when we were living here. And so I was still getting to know everybody. And this woman walks her 2 dogs all the time. And I saw some other kids walking her dogs before, and we were walking and talking, and I mentioned something about her grandkids. And those are her grandkids. They weren't her grandkids. They were her kids. And she was like, well, I'm not old enough to be a grandmother. Like, oh, I don't know why I thought you were for some so
yeah, so
I was thinking before I even said this, I knew it was going to start coming up, and I was already like nervous to even say it out loud.
So in that moment, I'm sure she felt embarrassed that you thought she was so old. I
tried to play it cool. I didn't freak out in the moment. It was the reliving of it over and over and over in my head that made it worse. Because in the moment, I had to be cool and like brush it off.
Did you need to be cool though? Maybe this is where a lot of this came from. If that moment you just admitted what an idiot you were, instead of trying to play it cool and apologize to the person. Like there's no real good, clean way out of that. You're not getting out of it scot-free. But if you addressed it more directly, do you think it would have alleviated some of that?
What would I have said? Like, oh, you look too old to be their mom.
Fair point. I don't know what you would have said. So
what she should have said was she probably is a little bit of an older mom, which is fine. There is no judgment with that at all. What does that matter? It doesn't matter. If she knows that is a thing, if I were her, I'd be like, oh, I know, I'm an older mom, blah, blah, blah. Like, I get this all the time. You know what I mean? Like, I would want to make the other person, like, understand that it's not a big deal. But instead, she was like, I'm not old enough to be their mom. I'm not old enough to be their grandma.
So how did you play it off?
I said, oh, I don't know why I thought those were your grandkids. I don't know. Like, I was making it like I'm crazy. I don't know. I'm crazy.
Yeah, should have thrown in some line about your eyesight.
Yeah. I actually am legally blind.
Yeah, I couldn't tell.
Yeah.
I just had my eyes dilated. I went to the eye doctor and let me see your pupils, and they're pins.
They're normal.
Yeah.
Then Ellie's with me. You're not blind, Mom. Like, oh, Ellie.
Oh, yeah. You have your kids. You can't lie because your kids will just call you out. That's not true.
Mm-hmm.
My mom has perfect eyesight.
You talk about all the time how you don't need glasses. Shut up.
So, all right. I mean, then you're feeling embarrassment for... So what's driving your embarrassment in that? Because you made her feel bad? Because you got something wrong? Both? Probably both. I
mean... Getting something wrong that's innocuous is nothing to be embarrassed about. But when it's a couple of things, right? I'm calling her old. I'm saying that you look older. So,
which, if it is true, it's not like you're doing anything wrong. Making the assumption that those would be her grandkids, then an older person wouldn't have just kids. Maybe
Right.
that's something that you could be more aware of. But if a person looks old, they look old.
Right. So there's a line in A Fish Called Wanda where John Cleese is talking about how it's so tough to be British because you're always afraid you're going to say like, how's your wife and kids? And they're going to say, oh, they all died in a plane crash last week, And that's what it's like. It's like you can't. That's why people keep things at very superficial surface level, because if they say anything that's wrong, or it's like there are landmines everywhere of embarrassment that you might step on.
I think the best you can do in that situation is just apologize.
Yeah.
Again, it doesn't alleviate all the feelings that were stirred by bringing something up. Like, yeah, if a person's family's dead and you ask them how they're doing, they're not going to feel good. But you can't fix that. Like, oh, I'm sorry.
Right.
I really didn't know. Or to this woman, oh, I'm sorry. You do look old, but I shouldn't have assumed that someone your age wouldn't have kids that age.
But maybe she's not that old. Like, I don't know how old she is. Maybe she's, similar to my age. I don't know. But so I have a cousin who had her daughter late because she had some fertility issues and all that stuff. And she is an older mom. And people think that her and her husband are the grandparents sometimes, especially when she was a baby. So I thought about her and I wanted to text her and be like, Karen, I said this to my neighbor. What do I do? I didn't do it though, because then I was worried that she would be like, yeah, that's horrible.
And then what would you do at that point? Go hunt down the neighbor, knock on the door. Hey, I really need to tell you that. You just make it worse.
I don't know. It was one of those things where I would scald myself in the shower. It would just come up like, oh, God.
We're in a situation where people are trying to not offend other people, but I think it can go too far and make life. These things happen. Again, you can apologize. That's the most you can do. The other person can accept your apology and deal with the feelings that you stirred about them looking like an old bag, or they cannot accept your apology.
Yeah.
But they still have those feelings, and that's the end of it. Overthinking it. Like, so when you're overthinking it, would you think there was a different way to go about it?
I didn't really think about anything that would change it. It was more that it happened, and I kept replaying it. It was like a bruise I kept pushing on.
Do you feel
I couldn't stop pushing it.
Do you feel like it gets worse as you run through it again, a bit exaggerated? Because your brain, what
it does is it makes me think about any interaction we have after that she remembers that I said that.
Oh, she will.
So now every conversation is tainted with like, she's not talking to me, or she's not doing this, or she's not doing that because of this conversation. When maybe she's not even thinking about it anymore.
Well, she'll think about it. That exists. That's going to exist.
Why are you saying that?
But if she's modifying her behavior and treating you differently, a reasonable person would say, all right, well, that did make me feel great, but it was a mistake, and I'm going to let that go. I'm saying it because it is there.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll fade over time, but they'll still.
It has to, right? It has. I mean,
she's not going to forget. She's not going to forget that you. But I'm sorry, and you need to find a way to be okay with that also.
Well, I pretend like it's fine. I fake it till I make. I mean, every conversation we have, I'm not afraid to talk to her because of that. I don't avoid her, but when we speak or any interaction I have, I'm thinking that she's remembering that, and whatever. Everything is through that view, that looking through a cone of my shame.
All right, I'm not going to make it worse by telling you that she will definitely remember forever.
Yeah, you already have.
What else? What else you got? Let's move on.
Okay, I was in Wisconsin, and we were on a boat. We were on the lake, and we were all hanging out, and there were these Wisconsin girls on the boat with us that I didn't know. But, it was me and Travis and these girls and his brother. And a lot of people smoke in Wisconsin. And I had a Red Bull that I had put some vodka in. And I had it on the boat. And I set it down. And we were swimming for a long time and hanging out. And then when I got back in the boat, we were getting ready to go. And I saw my Red Bull and I took a big drink out of it. And there were cigarette butts. Like it had cigarette. People had ashing into it or whatever. So I realized immediately what was going on, and so I spit it in my hand and threw it off the side of the boat. And not everyone had seen, except for these two girls.
Did they point and laugh?
Yes. The one was like, oh, and then the other was like, what? And then she whispered to her what had happened, and they were laughing. And I felt so embarrassed. And then I was full of rage at those little bitches for like, first of all, I do not care about those girls. Why am I so embarrassed in front of them? Who gives a shit about them? I wanted to be able to be way cooler about it. The other thing was like, I wanted, first, fuck them for being so bitchy, like shitty girls about it, you know, instead of being like, oh man, that sucks. You know what I mean? Like, just like we could all laugh about it, like making me feel, why wouldn't they make me feel more comfortable? And maybe it's because they didn't know me, and who knows, maybe, you know, idiots, but I'm just like so mad at them.
I'm sure they told other people. They went to the bar that night and expressed the, I feel like this is something that's common. People, especially go to parties when you were younger, the people were always ashing, and if you weren't paying attention, you accidentally took a sip of some cigarette butts.
It's not a big deal. It really isn't.
But it's not.
Yeah. For their reaction pissed me off, and then my reaction to it happening pissed me off more, you know, and it made me more embarrassed. Like I wanted it to be like not a big deal, but I felt like it was a really big deal, and I was so embarrassed, and I hated that I was so embarrassed, and then I hated their reaction.
Which I think all of this is completely reasonable. Accidentally taking that drink in the first place, it's not a big deal. It's just something that happened. You weren't paying attention. Some people decided to ash in your can. You took the sip.
Yeah.
The end. You didn't really do anything that warranted a feeling of embarrassment, but the moment those people are pointing at you, or if they're not pointing, but there was whispering and they're laughing because they know what happens, the immediate reaction is then to make you feel embarrassed, like you did something wrong, which it didn't. The rage, I think, is completely justified.
Yeah.
So I hope you weren't feeling bad over that feeling. But then the embarrassment comes in that you felt embarrassed. So then you're embarrassed that you felt embarrassed, and you're embarrassed by your own feelings at that point.
It kind of turned into like anger. There was this really weird swirl of embarrassment and anger. Yeah, you know, because I was embarrassed that it happened, and then I was pissed at those girls. And then I was kind of pissed that I wasn't taking it. Like, why didn't I act cooler? First of all, they were much younger than me. And I wanted to be a different person when, like, the shit hits the fan, you know, like when the rubber meets the road. I wanted to be a different person who reacts differently and is like, plays it cool and not a big deal. But I wasn't.
Well, you're in a situation, again, what really can you do? You can yell at the girls, make maybe you feel better in the moment. They're not going to think anything differently. They're still going to laugh at the fact that
I should have been like, oh, this never happened to you, you know?
Yeah, it's like, yeah, you think this is funny, huh?
Or take another sip of it and spit it at them.
But it's a very helpless feeling. It's like,
helpless.
It's like, I didn't do anything. Why am I being laughed at? I didn't really do anything. I drank this thing. I wasn't paying attention. So, you know, again, getting angry. I hope that wasn't something, why did I get so angry? And you could have said something, I guess, but whatever you would have said wouldn't have been that clever in the moment. And
exactly.
It just
that's what I mean. I wanted to play it cool. And I feel like I want to be the kind of person who could have just like played it cool. And it not just pretend, like play it, but also just actually like have a chill reaction to it. But I didn't, and that pissed me off.
That's a big thing. I you know, you're just living your life, and then the next thing you know, you're being laughed at or scolded or something. Mm-hmm. There's like an instance when I was a kid. I was playing outside. I was having a good day. I ran inside to the house. My dad was in the living room with my sister, who was a baby at that point, and she was asleep in his arms, and I was loud when I came in. And I woke her up, and he yelled at me. He's like, look what you did. And it's a reaction from my dad. And, you know, he apologized later. But in that moment, I was just living my life. I was just outside. Everything's great. And now why all of a sudden? Mm-hmm. And that triggered a feeling of embarrassment. I didn't know what to do. You know, maybe that was immediate shame, but there was something. I was like, what? I was questioning my behavior when I shouldn't. I didn't do anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something happened as a result of something I did, but I didn't set out to wake up my sister. I didn't even know she was asleep in the living room. I was just living my life. I ran inside with no intent of bothering anyone. The next thing I knew, I'm being scolded, and then I feel like I've ruined the day.
I feel like I've done that to Ellie.
But look, I get it. It's a tough job to parent. And you're doing things and maybe have things in some kind of order finally.
Right. And then
and then something happens and it disrupts that order. And you snap.
I think that what you were feeling is like when people are blindsided by infidelity, when they talk about being embarrassed, right? Because they're living their lives feeling like everything's fine, and then all of a sudden they have been fooled that whole time. So it was almost like you were living your life thinking that you're not thinking about your existence, and then all of a sudden it's shoved in your face.
Yeah,
and that your existence is wrong.
You think back. Yeah,
your reality is wrong.
Yeah, everything that you had experienced, this other thing was going on, and you were somewhat oblivious to it.
Right.
It's demeaning. It's and the other person put you in that situation, the person you trusted. Like, I trusted you, and then you put me in the situation to make me look like a fool.
Yeah.
And that's multi-layered. That's all over the place because you're doubting yourself. How could I have not known? And you think of all those times you were just acting normally. And it takes away the meaning, too, from your life leading up. It's like, I just was I went to, even if it had nothing to do with your partners, I went to see that movie and I really enjoyed it. Oh, while I was seeing that movie,
this was happening. Yeah, totally. Have you been cheated on?
I think so. Not that I know of for sure, but I'm actually pretty sure. It was just, it's like my first girlfriend. She was a year older than me. She went to college, broke up with me, was immediately in a relationship with another guy.
Oh.
So I assume that there was cheating going on at that point.
Sure. Did you feel like, at the time, she was cheating, or afterwards you felt like she must have been cheating?
Afterwards, it's like, oh, well, I maybe at the time I thought about it. I don't know. Logically, I think about those things. I'm like, yeah, of course. It's much different when you're younger and you're 18 and the person's 19 and you haven't developed, you don't even know how to transverse a relationship at that point. It's like, I have no clue how to do this, but logically, it's like, yeah, the person goes away, they're meeting all these new people. Of course, they're going to meet someone. She did break up with me. Did she break up with me before she had sex with this guy? Probably not.
Right.
And at the time, don't get me wrong, it hurt. Like, it hurt, and I was very upset. Just about the breakup more so than this idea, but that added to it. Then this idea, and you start thinking about things. There was another time I was dating that girl who smashed in my back windshield.
Right.
And I went to her place and her ex's watch was by the bed. Yeah.
Ooh.
And supposedly it was just, left there, and then she moved it there. And then I gave her some strange ultimatum, like, smash it. If nothing happens, smash the watch. She refused to smash it. But she smashed my car. It's like, you like
the watch.
You like smashing things. You've told me you like smashing. You smashed some other person's car, and you hadn't smashed my car yet, but who knew that was to come? And I was like, yeah, why didn't you smash it? Why didn't you smash it? So that was there.
Okay.
When I cheated, I felt bad. I felt awful because I thought about those things. Mm-hmm. I don't know why I couldn't bring myself to break up with the person.
Yeah.
Again, I was young and it's stupid, but in my mind, it was one of these things but everything's okay. Like, things aren't bad in the relationship, so breaking up just because I don't think it's right. Obviously, things were bad because I was cheating, but I didn't know how to tell someone. It's like, it's just not going to work. I thought there had to be some awful, horrific thing, but I did think about the level of embarrassment that I felt embarrassed myself that I was acting like that and doing that. That was a big thing, and it stuck with me for a very long time.
And it's interesting, too, because I feel like stuff like that would stop you in your tracks now. Whereas before, I mean, you probably felt all those things, but then went back for more.
Yeah, but it wasn't just a sexual, like, the cheating wasn't a sexual, there was sex, but it wasn't just a strictly sexual arrangement. It's like I really had feelings for the other person.
Right.
I was like, I love this other person. So I don't know what to do. I'm conflicted, and I just froze. I just didn't do anything. But my girlfriend at the time never found out, which is probably for the best, because she didn't have to go through all that emotional pain. It was still a really shitty thing of me to do.
Right.
And yeah, I cringe when I think back on it. That's one of those things. Actually, I would scald myself in the shower. Why did you do that? Who were you?
Yeah, Yeah, like I said, I feel like now you are a little bit different, I think that all those thoughts would stop you, right? Like you wouldn't be able to go there because you wouldn't be able to stop thinking about all those things.
No, exactly. I wouldn't be able to. I haven't cheated since.
Yeah.
Because how awful it made me feel. And this isn't, no one should feel bad for me in this situation. It was a very selfish thing to do. I was wrapped up in very strong emotions pulling me to this other person. Mm-hmm. And, again, I was somewhat young and I didn't understand things. It's not an excuse to be careless with other people's feelings, but it's not fair for anyone involved. It's not fair for the person I'm cheating with. It's not fair for the person I'm cheating on, because even if they don't know, I'm distancing myself from the relationship emotionally. It's not fair to me. That's the least of the concerns in the situation, and that's how I would feel now. It's like there's so many other people and that could be hurt by this. No.
Yeah.
There's no reason to go there, and it doesn't make anyone feel good, I don't think. So certainly, a lot of.
I've never cheated. No? I don't think.
Have you been in situations, I guess, where you could have and you've haven't?
Yeah. Yes.
So there's really nothing to talk about in terms of this topic on that front for you. Have you been cheated on?
I don't think so. I mean, I was kind of cheating on my last boyfriend emotionally, for sure, with Travis. He was doing a lot of things, and I was probably emotionally cheating on my last boyfriend, because, I would leave to go to work, and I would leave like in the evening because I worked as that cocktail waitress, and I would come home. I would go out after work to the bar and close down the bar, and then sometimes even go to someone's apartment after that and like order Chinese food at 5 a.m. And then I would come home and he would sometimes still be awake, just like doing whatever he was doing on the computer, like in the same spot I left him. And so that was kind of a bummer, and he would never come out, and so I was just doing things, you know what I mean? And I was out and having fun, and he would never go. And then, Travis was my teacher. Like, he was my teacher for an astronomy lab. And I just liked him. I just liked his personality. And so we started hanging out, and he had his Nintendo. He had his like NES at his house, and we played Punch Out. And
this is while you're still in the relationship.
Yes, while I was still and I would find reasons to go to his house.
Did your boyfriend know where you were going?
Yeah, I would tell him.
All right, so you were straight up.
Yeah.
It sounds like he was emotionally closed. I don't know if you're holding, shame over this, then maybe you let the relationship with him go on a little bit longer than it should have, but outside of that,
again, it was like what you were saying, where there wasn't any big thing happening. We weren't not getting along. The relationship was just sort of coasting. And I mean, eventually, like, he wanted me to move, but wouldn't get married and blah, blah, blah. But, yeah, I do feel like I guess I should have been more self-aware and like broken up sooner, but all these things were happening. I was like trying to buy a house. We were going to move into this house together.
Well, it just sounds like you're making these big plans, knowing that you probably shouldn't be making these big plans with that person. You were just trying to find a way out. Pushing him away. He wasn't available anyway. He wasn't,
yeah. He didn't want to do the things I wanted to do.
So you were just, subconsciously probably acting out and then looking for a way out. And, if you learn from it, it's okay.
That was a fun time, though. I mean, not for this person, not for my boyfriend, but for me, that was a really fun time. I was getting drunk all the time, and you can recover, like no problem. Sleeping until 11 a.m., going out with, being all like falling in love kind of with Travis. It was really fun.
So you're not holding any feelings here? Is there any shame involved with this?
I guess there should be, but
if there's not, it's fine.
There's not.
Don't introduce it.
I don't think I have any embarrassment about that. Other things I don't have embarrassment about is like times when maybe I should is that superhero bunny thing that I have that video of, where I was at this cheerleading camp and they told us at the end that you're supposed to dress up for our like big performance of cheerleading cheers and stuff. And I was the kind of kid that like did not pay attention, and I only heard dress up. So I wanted to wear my superhero bunny costume. And so I was telling my mom that that's what I was going to wear. And that morning she was putting like a bunny nose on my nose, you know, like drawing a little triangle and putting whiskers on. And she was like, "Are you sure that this is what they meant?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I get there and everyone's dressed up as like cheerleaders. They're like in sporty clothes or in like an actual cheerleading outfit. And I'm this superhero bunny. And I walked in, I was like, I remember this feeling of like, oh, dress up like that makes sense. But then I just moved on and I wasn't embarrassed. And we did our little like cheers, and I did not care. I probably should have been embarrassed. But
I'm glad you weren't embarrassed. I guess the natural reaction would have been because you misinterpreted what this was supposed to be.
Right, and I'm the only one looking crazy.
Yeah, you could play that off. It's like, I still did it the way I wanted to do it.
I was just unaware.
Sure. And if you're unaware, that's the greatest way to escape embarrassment. If you're just oblivious to what's going on. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I'm glad that you still were able to enjoy it. And and people at this point probably think of the girl dressed in the bunny costume.
Maybe they do. I never thought about that.
And that was cool.
Remember when that girl went that cheerleading camp dressed up as why did she do that?
That was great. There's video of this, right?
Mm-hmm. It's on YouTube. I'll put it on our YouTube page.
Yeah, now we've got something on the YouTube page.
One topic. Check it out.
2 videos will be up there. Autumn drum, or did you put 3? You put the one where
I didn't put the drumming one. I put yours up.
The one where we were supposed to record.
I love that video.
And you were here in New York. We were supposed to record, but I couldn't get your microphone to work because it needs a lot of power. I've read about this microphone that you have now. This is just boring for other people, but that's why we couldn't get it to work. And then my apartment was a mess, and you were doing that video, and then I brought out the window. The keyboard that I sprayed and wiped down with the Windex still doesn't work. I broke the keyboard in that process on that video. If anyone cares,
sorry.
Go check out our YouTube page.
Yeah, we're doing it. Subscribe.
We're just like
we need AdSense revenue.
Everyone else. I won't put stuff up there because that's a vulnerable position. It's like, look, I'm trying to do this thing. Come look. And then YouTube, it's right there. The number of views, 2.
Right.
And both of them are me. That's the real source of potential embarrassment too, which is maybe why anything vulnerable, obviously, you put yourself out there, you're vulnerable, and if it goes wrong, that's instant. I think you just jump to instant shame at that point. It's just there's the few things. There's the few things with me. The thing I've talked about before is when I took the improv classes, which doing that in the first place, I hate going on stage. I'm sick for days before I have to do something on stage. I know it's strange to people. You're in radio. You go sit in a room alone.
You're alone, yeah.
Or you're with other people you know. And yes, this is, doing live radio, it's going out, but you're not seeing the audience's reaction. You don't know how big the audience is. It could be an audience of 3 people at that point, which on stage would shut me down. It's like, why am I even going to do this? Though if you're a professional or you want to treat it professionally, you'll still do the show for the 3 people. But, radio is much different. But this graduation show for these improv classes that I did, which I still think I could have been good at, I was overthinking everything, and I was so self-aware, and I wasn't able to just let go. So we get to this show, which usually people don't come out to these. This is the one time you don't want an audience. People don't come out to these graduation shows.
Well, friends and family, right?
Some, but this turned out to be, the theater wasn't huge, but it held like the full improv theater. When
was it Dad's?
No, this was here in New York. It was
I'm sorry.
Upright Citizens Brigade.
What? UCB?
Yeah, just the classes. So the theater wasn't that big. I want to say it only held like 75 people for the big shows, but it was like 3/4 full. I don't know. There was some other show happening just after ours, and people came in, and each of us had to do 2 things on stage, 2 scenes, and the first scene went well. Like, I was able to relax and let go, and I got laughs, and like they ended the scene on one of my lines because it was got a big laugh, and then so whoever was directing called the scene. I was like, wow. And then so I go out a little bit cocky at the second scene, like, yeah, and I've brought it up. The scene was set up at a Renaissance fair. I forget exactly what was supposed to be happening, but the scene partner said, "Good thing I wore my bird suit today." I was like, "Didn't wear mine," and I just killed the scene. Killed it, let her down, didn't play off of her.
Right.
And then there was no saving it at that point because
So what happened right after you said that? Do you remember?
after I said that,
Or did you just fall into like a hole?
I fell into a hole. It mentally, I'm like, oh shit. And then I don't know what I said. Some kind of autopilot took over while I'm, shaming myself, berating myself. I don't know what I said after that. And then for days after, and that's still one of the things that hits me in the shower to this day.
Yeah.
It'll just pop in there. I'm like, ugh. And another thing was in 6th grade, I liked this girl, but I didn't want to let her know that I liked her. I created this whole convoluted scheme. I don't even know if I can explain it to you, and that'll make sense. So I found out where her locker was, and I wrote her a note as this other guy who expressed that he liked her. A real guy. Like, I just picked someone from one of my classes. Who gives a shit about him? He's going to be the guy that I'm writing as with these notes. And so I write these notes for like a week or 2 weeks, and she starts putting the notes back, but I have to have her put them into my locker because I can't get into his locker, and she could easily find out it's my locker. So I set it up somehow that I'm just acting as a messenger for this other guy.
Give him to Greg and he'll give him to me.
Yeah, I'm the in-between. I'm the messenger, the delivery service.
Okay.
And that continues. It goes on for so long, probably a month and a half. She gets a boyfriend in 6th grade. I know, been going out just means you see each other at school.
Right.
So she
hold
gets
hands on different things.
Yes, so she gets a boyfriend. I transition these notes from, oh, well, I'm interested in someone else now, but maybe you'd be interested in Greg. And so these notes are still being delivered, but now it's like, now I've shifted the focus to me and like starting to admit that maybe I like her, but I know she has this boyfriend. So I write this note as her boyfriend with my left hand because I'm right-handed, and the left hand won't be able to match the handwriting. This is the brilliant reasoning. And I put that note in her locker. The note just breaks up with her, thinking that she's not going to ask her boyfriend.
Yeah, like, what is this?
She would just read the notes like, oh, that was nice, but I guess it's over. And so then, at some point, not that it's that hard, people know it was me, like, the whole time, and this boyfriend confronts me. And he's like, is it worth me kicking your ass over for you to keep sending these notes?
Wait, how did they know it was you?
I mean, I guess because at some point I transitioned to, oh, but, maybe you like Greg, and Greg, I think, likes you. This is all just to avoid rejection. Just all this whole scheme just to
be like, oh, I guess we should go out because so-and-so introduced us.
And the rejection could still exist, but it wouldn't have been public. If the rejection happened, it would have been done through a note, and nobody would have known that she was rejecting. She would have been rejecting me, but she would have been rejecting me as the guy who helped this other guy. And that's really all it was. I was like, yes, there's still a chance at rejection here, but it would be less hurtful if not the whole school knew that I asked her out and she just said no.
Yeah.
And that's still to this day. Like, what? What the hell were you thinking?
I love that plan. That plan is like if you were a weird kid.
That is weird, but I know what you're...
That is weird, but if you were like on the outside looking weird, that would have been more creepy.
Certainly. It's still pretty creepy, I think.
It's a pretty creepy thing.
I did this again in a different way when I was much older.
Tell me everything.
This one, I was 29, and I had access.
No.
I was working at the radio station here in New York, and I had access to Matt Pinfield's Facebook page. And someone that I found attractive on Facebook, was following the page. And then I was so it was a fan page, and I was a moderator, but I had that fake Facebook profile as Jake Mesmeyer. So, approaching people on Facebook, that's not a dating site. It's out of the rules. You shouldn't be doing that. So I was like, I can't write this person anyway, even if it were my real profile. But because it's Jake Mesmeyer, I can't, trying to even write someone and explaining that's going to crash and burn. So I wrote these messages as Matt because I had access to Matt Pinfield's. But it turned out like she would design book covers. And so I said something as Matt, oh yeah, we got one of your books, or a book that you designed the cover on, because radio stations get promotional items. And so we got one of these. What a great cover. And then somehow, I don't remember how, but I transitioned it over to me, so then I started writing her. And I got past that initial hurdle.
Yeah.
And then we talked, and then we went on a date, and then we dated for 4 months.
Wow.
So that was still a strange thing to do. I was like,
did you ever tell her?
I mean, there would be times like, oh yeah, I can't remember how I transitioned it. It wasn't that weird. Like somehow I found a pretty smooth way to get it over to me. Right? I wish I could remember exactly what that was.
Because you were writing as Matt.
At first, just for like the first couple messages, because as a random dude with a fake Facebook profile, there's no way I could have just written someone.
Did you turn it into like, hey, I'm the admin for this page and I'm responding to something because Matt's not responding?
It was probably something like that.
Man.
It was, something exactly like that. And then there's, a few times it would come up. I was like, yeah, I don't know. Matt was just writing. He just sees things and says random things. It's like he just saw your book, and move on past it as fast as you can, because you're feeling embarrassed that you lied and don't want to be found out. That one doesn't hold as much. Like it's still now we talk about it. I'm like, oh, well, what was that move? It wasn't as bad as the 6th grade move, but it was surely the 6th grade move set the foundation for that move.
Yeah.
And it's all just because it's a vulnerable position, and I didn't want to be rejected, and I didn't want to feel bad and embarrassed.
Embarrassment. Yeah, that would be embarrassing. But it's the frequency of rejection that helps you not be embarrassed, right?
Yeah, if you put yourself out there and you get enough rejection, I think you can learn to better cope with that.
Right. It's like exposure therapy. I think that's why you're supposed to ask so many people out as a kid when you're younger, so that when you're older, it's not a big deal.
Yeah. No, we still have roundabout plans.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why, online dating, you can get rejected on that, but it just doesn't hurt as much. You ask someone out, like, nah, or they just don't write you back.
Ghosted.
Yeah, which is much easier than in person. Hey, you want to go out? No. No. Fine. Okay. I mean, on the same token, I think I always think of this one time I went on a date, and the end of the first date, and like it's awkward. It's like, there's going to be a kiss. I don't know if anyone's going to kiss or not. So then like, I'm thinking, all right, maybe I should just do it. It went well, and I moved in. Like, there was a hug coming. I was like, oh, maybe I'll just try to do it here. But then like, the hug went too far, and I hesitated too much, and I just like ended up kissing her temple or some weird thing.
No. Oh, did you like turn your head? Like,
well,
no.
It was, and then for days after that too. You stupid son of a bitch, you piece of shit.
That's a real hard moment.
When we went out again, then that was fine. But
just that, like, this thing where we haven't worked it out beforehand. Maybe it's going to happen. Maybe it's not. How do you read it? Like, and then you're no longer. You're like too mired in like what's going to happen. Am I reading it right? Am I reading it wrong? That's a tough one.
Exactly. And if the person, I assume, and it falls under the guy still. All right, I'll kind of make the move. Mm-hmm. And reading that, because the last thing I want to do is make a move and put someone in an uncomfortable position, or maybe they go along with it. But I
mean, like if it were me, I'd want the person to do it.
So what would
unless I didn't like them, and then I wouldn't. But I think I'd make that clear. Be like, okay, bye. Like, see ya.
Yeah, I
don't know if I would hug.
Are there any situations that you've been in where a guy made the move, you didn't want it to happen at all, or like you just said, you probably would make it pretty clear. So maybe you didn't get yourself in that situation. Yeah,
I would. Yeah. If I really liked you, I would say, like, are we going to kiss at the end of this date? Like I would talk about it.
Just bring it up and throw it out there.
Yeah.
Have you ever done that and the other person gives you
did it to Travis. I was like, so is this a date? Because it was right after my breakup with the other boyfriend. It was like a month later, maybe less, probably less, which is hard. I know. I'm that jerk. So,
and I don't, just to address that quickly, I don't think if you're in a relationship, while you're still in the relationship and it officially ended month, even a week before.
Yeah.
But you're really out of that relationship for a while mentally.
But it hurts the other person.
I
get it.
understand that it hurts the other person. That is real because it really just kind of does set up. It's like, oh, wow, you were probably not in this relationship leading up to the breakup.
Yeah.
The fact that you're already jumping to someone else, like you would probably process quite a bit already and prepared yourself. It doesn't say it makes it easier when you finally do break up, but maybe you'd prepared yourself a bit.
And I am quick to deal with things like that because I go through the emotion. Like I don't push anything away. I like sit with those emotions and cry like crazy and like talk about it with everyone that wants to listen, so I do process things probably a little quickly too.
So in this situation though, with Travis.
Yeah. So we planned to go see a movie and we were meeting up at just like a stupid, not like a restaurant. It wasn't like we sat down, but it was one of those things like where you have a thing and you go up and you get something and you pay for it at the end and then you go sit down. So we had our little trays and we were at the end and he wasn't coming to pay for mine. So I was like, okay, I'll pay for mine. No big deal. But then I wasn't sure, like, wait, are we still just friends? Or because he didn't pay for my dinner. Because I thought he would let me know by paying for my dinner. So then when we sat down, I was like, so is this a date? And he's like, if you want it to be. I said, yeah, I do. He's like, okay, good. Then we sat down then we watched a movie. We watched these movies. Oh my God, we saw Up, which was the worst thing to see on a first date because it's so sad in the beginning. And so, yeah, we're crying.
That's nice. It's a nice bonding point.
Yeah.
But were there situations where you put someone on the spot? I'm like, are we going to kiss at the end of this or this is a date? And they give you no, I don't think so. Or I don't know.
It's more been the other way around where like I was out on a date and I did not want to keep going on this date. And so we got back to the house and he like came in and I didn't really know what to do. And I was like, all right, well, thanks. And I was like, bye. I just gave him a quick hug. I didn't linger. I feel like there's ways to tell. Like girls will tell you. They're like cats.
Yeah, I feel like there's been a few times though when I thought for sure it's like, yes, this is going well and this is going to be what this person wants, and then no. There was one date.
Can you say like, can I kiss you, or is that tough to say?
You're not supposed to do that. Like
you're hugging, you're like, can I kiss you goodnight?
No, you're not supposed to ask. That's against the rules.
What do you mean?
Women don't like it. They want a man to take control. As much as things are becoming, more equal these days, apparently that rule still persists. I've heard that quite often from women. It's like, don't ask. It's like, okay, don't ever ask.
Yeah.
So no, there's no asking. There was one time I went on a date, just one date. It went well.
Force her, especially if she says no at first. Just keep going, just to see. They like that.
Yeah. The problem is you got some guy in your apartment, and if he buys into that, you're in a bad fucking spot.
Yeah. Why'd you invite him in?
I mean, It's surely not your fault, and you also sound like he just kind of followed you in. I would never go into a woman's space without it very, very clearly. He
didn't follow me. It was more like I didn't know. I was young. I didn't know how to like end the date. I was like, do you want to come in?
Oh, so you asked.
I probably did, but I wasn't giving him any other signals. Like, yeah.
It doesn't matter even if you did. Let's say this got to a point where something happened and you didn't want it to happen. You said, no, stop. It doesn't matter if you said, you want to come in? That would be a bullshit defense to stand on.
I agree.
She asked if I wanted to come in.
Right. It should always stop whenever, but also,
But so this date, she was like body language. I'm trying to read that. She's turned towards me and there's like subtle touching the arm or something. Then I walked her home and then I kissed her and I was like, that's okay.
What kind of?
It was, I don't know, quick. Not. Yeah. But then it was like clear that she didn't want that.
Oh.
But she still went along with it. There was no like pushing away. But I mean, it was just this one thing. And then I was walking back up the street and thinking, it's like, I don't think that's something she wanted. And now I feel like a real idiot.
Well, did you know? Did you ask her later or anything?
No, I think I just avoided it. I don't think I ever spoke to her
because maybe
again.
She was just nervous.
Maybe. I think she had also just gotten out of a relationship and maybe got back together with the guy. And maybe she was interested in me but didn't want it to go there that quickly.
Yeah.
I don't know. But that was another point.
No, I'm real out there with it. Like, I broke up with my first boyfriend who I was with for like 5 years. And then I was out at a promotions thing with this guy who I kind of thought was cute. And I was telling him about it. how I had broken up and like I want to have sex or something, and like we planned a hookup. I was like, yeah, we should be like, fuck buddies. And I was his, like we would hang out and have sex and that's it.
And look, if that's the arrangement, I could never do that. I can't I can't detach myself enough from it, but I know people can. There's no judgment being passed on it. It just always...
He was the one with the lid.
Yeah. Autumn's making a very small gesture with her thumb and index finger.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's fine.
Micro Mike.
The fact that he's capable of just entering that kind of arrangement, because if I were in that situation, I would just... That'd be... No, someone asked me that. Hey, you just want to have sex, like, casually? No.
Yeah. No.
No, why did you ask me that? Why did you make... now you're just reminding me. Reminding me of this thing. Oh, God. So that's nice. That's good. I'm glad that he was in a position where he's okay with that.
Yeah.
That's a crappy thing. It's out of your control. And, judgment is being passed on it.
Oh, sure.
It's not fair, but it is. It's happening. And he would know that.
I don't know how. He must have, like, some kind of personality that makes him like, well, I'll just make the best of it because he made the best of it.
I mean, you have to do that. Else you do live some kind of lonely, removed life.
Yeah.
So good. I'm glad.
But yeah, so I guess I avoid embarrassment sometimes in those situations because I'll just like say, what's going on?
Well, I think living your life to avoid embarrassment, we can wrap it up with this. It's pretty stupid because there was one other point in my life that still hits me. And it's not so much. So when I first moved to New York, I applied for this job at Sirius and then Maxim. Remember when Maxim was huge, the magazine? They had a radio station. It was a talk format. And they had a producer opening, so I applied for this producer, but I also sent my air check from 99X and other radio stuff that I had done. And the program director wrote me and said, you shouldn't be a producer. You should be on the air. And so I went in. I did a 2-hour talk shift, which I'd never done before in my life. I planned out things to talk about. I went through those things in the first hour. Then I had an hour to fill, and the board operator refused to come on the air with me to just, shoot the shit because I needed to fill this time. Again, this is one of those moments where I'm panicking. I do not really remember what I did on the air for the second hour. And I went home, and it was another one of those lying in bed, nude in New York. It's like, you fucking failure. You blew that. Next day, there's an email from the program director. I didn't open it. This is February 2008. I didn't open it until May. I opened the email that he sent me in May, and it was positive. It was that was pretty good. You've never done that before, and there's certainly things to work on, but I think that was... And then I wrote some bullshit response. I don't know how I missed this email. Never heard back from him. No! And so the embarrassment from that it's no longer what I did on the air. It's the avoidance. Like now I'm embarrassed that I was trying to avoid feeling worse than I already was. And that's ridiculous. Like, so there are certainly opportunities that you can miss out on in life if you're just living and trying to avoid the negative feelings that come along with embarrassment and shame. And that's my message of this whole show. It's like, don't avoid it. Try not to avoid it. I understand why people want to, but don't. Because who knows?
And if you were part of the embarrassing situation and the other person is in the situation of them being embarrassed, you should help them and make them not feel as embarrassed. Like, point it out. You know what I mean? Let's talk about it so that that I know that you're feeling embarrassed, but you don't need to be.
Yeah, that goes a long way.
Yeah.
Maybe at the moment you start talking to someone about it, it stirs the feeling because they don't want to talk about it, and we've been trained to just push that down and hide. Right. But I think ultimately, someone else talking to you about it openly and not coming after you for it, would be very helpful.
Be empathetic to their embarrassment and how it must feel and what you can do to help them not feel so embarrassed.
And that's the message of a lot of our shows. Just don't be a jerk.
Don't be a jerk.
Don't be a jerk.
Be empathetic.
All right. It's my turn to take us out, huh? Because it's my show.
Sure.
Thanks for listening to this episode of One Topic. I am Greg Russ. That is Autumn Fisher. Autumn will tell you where you can find us. I know there's a YouTube page. She set up some other things.
Yeah, I set up a Twitter page that has no tweets on it because I really want, Greg, I want you to put out our first tweet.
That's a lot of pressure.
I feel like it will be interesting and funny and.
All right, I'll take a look. I'll think.
Okay. So we're on Twitter, we're on YouTube. I don't know really what those mean yet, but like them, subscribe, follow, all those things. And we are on anywhere that you can listen to podcasts. You can find us at One Topic on Podbean. You can also use our code OneTopic15 for 15% off of hot sauce from Hoff, HOFF, and pepper.com. That's One Topic 15. Is there anything else?
No,
like and subscribe, rate us on iTunes.
Yeah, that's the one everyone focuses on, is the iTunes, even though people use many other platforms to get the show. You go to iTunes and you see there's only been 88 ratings. Why aren't there more? 5-star. If it's not giving us a 5-star, don't do it.
Yeah. Greg checks.
Sometimes.
Greg checks the number.
I try not
says
to.
There's still only 88.
I try not to obsess, but sometimes it becomes, something that takes over my brain.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for listening. Make your horn noise. No, the bow 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 bow.
Bow, 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 bow. I made the office horn.